Okay, welcome to our Actionscript presentation this morning. Thank you, thank you. That's like the saddest. Oh, there's a little bit of applause. Okay. All right, so far with our gaming code, we learned some different movie properties yesterday, where I can tell if a button is clicked, then I can move a clip forward. We also learned that we could put text in there, make it dynamic, and use code to make that change. And then we learned that there are code snippets that if I click an object and I double click on my code snippet, it will put code in there for me. Does that sound like a good summary of what we did yesterday? So what we're going to add to it today is collisions. So a collision means that the game is going to be able to detect that if one object touches another object. And again, we are trying to learn some basics of code that we need for a game without totally get into why everything is what it is. So I've tried to simplify some of this stuff. So if you look in Canvas, there's now an assignment called Actionscript minigame, and if you scroll down it says helpful code. So this is and there's a few things in here, but the first part of helpful code is how to create a collision. So we are going to just copy and paste this. So remember I mentioned yesterday, a lot of programmers, that's what they do. They find the code that they need on the internet, they copy it, they put it in what they're doing, and they paste it, and then they just go in and make the adjustments that they need to for their particular whatever it is that you're doing. The more you do that, the more you understand what the code is, and you can start typing it yourself without needing to find it first. But all programmers are starting out that way. It's just cool that we have the internet resources that we do now. Coming back to animate, I need a second object first if I want something to collide. So in the library I have a bomb, and in the bomb, just to make things a little bit more exciting, if I double click on my bomb and look at the timeline inside, I have animated the bomb. So it goes across the screen. So I'm going to have it start out right here. And my game is going to be, can I get out of the way before the bomb hits me? Really complicated, right? Okay, both my objects need to have an instance name. So if I select the bomb and I come to properties, I'm going to name it bomb. And I'm going to make sure my guy has a name. He's still guy1 from yesterday, so he's good to go. So my properties are set up. I'm ready to deal with my code. I'm going to make sure I'm clicking in the code layer. And then I'm going to open up Actions. And with this, I don't want it to watch for collision when I click a button. I just want it to always be happening. So that's why I don't have to go in and do an event listener. Well, excuse me. I do an event listener, but I'm not attaching it to a button. So let me copy this and I'll show you. So I'm copying the code from Canvas, and I'm going to paste it in my game. I know it's a little bit hard for you guys to see this, but notice that it starts out with add event listener instead of button.add event listener like we've been doing. So that means it's just automatically going to start doing it. It's not going to do it when a button's clicked. It's just going to do it. But it changes this code up just a little bit, so we're still doing an event, but it's just the event is when it happens in the frame. So event.enter frame. I have done the function name is colliding. We could name it crash. I could name it you're dead. Whatever I want to name it. Remember, function name is something that I can make up. But then I have to tell the computer what that function means. So I'm still going to come down and define the function. So I've typed word function. I've got is colliding because that matches is colliding up here. And then I have event and then a colon event in there. So you have to put it twice with this. This is the weird stuff, because what we did so far is pretty similar to what we've been doing. But what you're seeing here is if and else. So in the programming world, we refer to this as a if-then statement. We've got choices of things that are happening. It just depends on what conditions are being met. So we start out with an if, and then in this code it says if object 1 dot, and then here's your new code word, hit test object is how it detects if they're touching. And then you put in parentheses object 2. So I need to change that code to match what I'm doing. So for me, object 1 is my guy 1. That's what my instance name is for my first object. And then instead of object 2, I'm going to change that to bomb. So if guy 1 hit test object the bomb, and then I've put in here right now feedback text you lose. So actually let's, I've got this set up for having text. We got to go back, put some text in here. So this makes sense to you. Well, that's also how we'll know that it worked. Bless you. Okay, so I've got an empty text box. It's set to dynamic text. I'm going to give it a name of feedback text. Not tech. Text. There we go. Okay. So now when I look at my code, I'm saying that if those two things touch in the feedback text thing that I just created, make the text equal to you lose with the quotation marks around the text. That's the string that we talked about yesterday. Else, so which means if it's not touching, make the feedback text, and then I've got two quotes with nothing in there. So I could put in gibberish. But if I just have nothing between my quotes, there's just going to be no text in my text box. So it'll stay blank until they touch, and it'll say I lose. Let's go test this. I lose, because I didn't even try and get out of the way. And apparently my text box is not in my game. I need to move it down a little bit more so I can see my feedback. There we go. Okay, this game would be more exciting if I actually could move my guy. Because since I started from scratch, I can't get out of the way even if I wanted to. So a review on making your guy move with the keyboard press stuff. Select the movie clip that you want to move with your the code with the keys. Come up to Window and open up Code Snippets. Actionscript, Animation. Double click on the icon in front of Move with Keyboard Arrows, and it's going to put all that awesomeness in there for you. So now when I test, oh, I've got an error. I know. A conflict exists with the definition up pressed in namespace internal. Awesome. I don't, well, I could make the bomb move around if I wanted to.
I mean, did you accidentally do that? Because that's what I did yesterday.
Let's try it. Let's take out. Select all of this crap. All of this crap. I'm not scrolling well. There we go. Sorry, my mouse is being dumb. It's sometimes scrolling, sometimes not. And I can't even get to the rest of my code. There we go. Did I get all of it? Got all of that. There's my original stuff. Let's make sure the error's gone. So now we're back to losing. Code snippets. Make sure the guy is selected. Then double click. Let's test it. Yay, no errors. Oh, I forgot to try and move. Ready? Here we go. Run! Run! Okay. Oh, I still lost. Now I'm out of the way though. That was close. Okay. So now I can at least get out of the way. So that's reviewing a little bit of what we did yesterday. One last new thing to make this slightly more exciting is let's get some sound in here. Ooh. Okay. First, you need to go find a sound. So I just went to the internet. Not there.
Sydney says it should be me and Grace saying ooh.
That would then we'd have to record something first. That's another day. Another demo, another day. Okay, so I went to sounds, found a sound I liked, clicked on it, and then hit the file and downloaded it. And then I came to animate and I did the file. Let's click on animate so we get its options. File, import, import to library. So you can see in the library that I have a sound somewhere. Where'd it go? There we go. Depth charge. So if I test it, I hear nothing apparently. Where did it go? Let's re-import it. I don't know what happened to it. File, import, import to library. Downloads. Open. Test it. Oh, I muted my computer. Told you I left my brain at home today. Let's go turn off the music. Oh, there, we have a working sound. Okay, so we know it's going to be happy for us. There's a little bit of setup that we have to do with the sound in order to use it with code. So far, all the code stuff that we've been doing has involved things that we've already put on the stage, and we've given it an instance name so we've been able to talk to it. This is kind of a new thing in that we are not putting the sound on the stage first, but we are going to talk to it in the library. It is possible. But it does not have anything to do with what it's named right here. Remember how before I told you these names mean nothing? That is still true. What I need to do is right-click on the sound and choose Properties. And when you open up the Properties, there is an Actionscript tab. And the first thing I want to do is click Export for Actionscript. I basically just said I can talk to this with code, even though it's in the library. Then I want to make sure Export to Frame 1 is checked. And then these two boxes down here, it says Class and Base Class. So class is like another name for a program. I don't want to get deep into what classes are today. But just know that in this section that says class, this is almost like the instance name that we type in our code. So I'm going to, instead of this being the full name of the sound that I downloaded, I'm going to make it something easy. So I'm just going to name it Boom. The second box where it says Base Class, that's the actual code that will make it play. It's basically hidden code in Animate that says, oh, I know how to deal with sound because it's got a sound class attached to this file. So just leave that alone. So all you need to do is click on the Actionscript tab, make sure these boxes are checked, and change that to a name that you want to type in your code. Pretty easy so far, right? So I'm going to click on OK. And it's going to come up with a little box that says, a definition for this class could not be found, so when will be created? That would be wonderful. Okay, thank you for doing that for me. Just let that go. Click on OK. And notice over here in the library on the sound, there's this little side here that says linkage. And by default it's blank, but now under linkage I can see it says Boom. So that's, if I have that linkage name, that's just like an instance name. I can now talk to it with my code. Okay, so I'm going to open up my code. And I'm going to scroll up away from all this key press stuff, all the way up here. Okay, so I'm back to my collision in the section where it says if they touch. That's when I want my sound to play. And I already have this line of code that says feedback text you lose. Just like yesterday when we saw we could put multiple lines of code inside, we can do that here. So I'm going to come down and just add some extra code inside the if statement. But I'm going to go snag it from Canvas. So if you scroll down in the assignment, there's now something that says to play a sound. And there's kind of a verbal reminder of what we just did with setting the properties. And then here's the code that you need right here. So I'm going to copy those 2 lines of code. I'm going to come back to animate and I'm going to paste those 2 lines of code. And I'm just going to make those line up a little bit better, just visually organizing my code here. So what this is saying, oh, maybe I can zoom in on it. Nope, that's a search. Kind of looked like a, okay. Anyways, the 2 lines of code are, oh, guess what? I can zoom in here. Is that a little bit better? Okay. Right here, it's starting out, it says var. That is short for variable. So we're essentially declaring a variable with this. And we're saying that it's going to be my sound sound equals a new sound, or a new, and then right here, this where it says sound class name, that is what you made up. So where I changed mine to boom, I'm going to change sound class name to boom. So it's just saying I need a new sound that's called boom. And then the second line is what actually makes it play, my sound dot play. Because you're saying my sound is equal to boom, play my sound. So let's go test that. I've got the code in here. I just need to change where it says sound class name to boom. Let's test it. No errors. That's always a good, oh. And I didn't even try to get out of the way, so now every time I get hit, I get my sound. Okay. Any questions on putting sound in or collisions? Yes?
Do you like put that sound code in like between the bomb codes?
Yeah, so I put the sound code, so remember we have the if they're touching, and then so far it just said do the you lose line. Else, so if they're not touching, leave it blank. I put the sound in the if part. So right after the line that says you lose, that's where I put the play the sound on it. If I put this play the sound code somewhere else, so I'm going to copy it and take it out of there. If I come and just put it right on my main timeline, did I take an extra? Oh, it's because it's still putting it in the variable. Hold on. Undo, undo. There we go. So now I've got it just outside of that. It automatically plays. But if I put that code inside the if statement, it waits until the bomb touches. So it does make a difference. So I could use that code to also play some cheesy 8-bit sounding background music to just play in the game when it starts. Of course, I don't need to have code to just make a sound play when it starts. It's more about the interactivity. Okay, so you're going to go ahead and the rest of the day today you are working on that game. Remember, we're just keeping it simple. You are free to go Google some code if you want to and try and make it work, but keep in mind that basically today's it for making this game. So don't get too crazy. We're just on the mainframe doing a little stuff. Maybe I'll have the guy run around and I've got a couple of different things I need to avoid hitting. Or maybe I'll try and build some walls of a maze that if it hits the side of the wall, something happens. Oh, one more line of code that I could add to this. So right now he gets hit with a bomb and it blows up, but nothing happens to him. How about I make him disappear when he gets hit with the bomb? What's a line of code that we already know that would make him disappear?
Alpha.
Alpha. So up in that same section where I have you lose and play the bomb sound, I'm going to add one more line of code that says guy1 dot alpha is equal to 0. Let's try that. So now when he gets hit, he blows up and disappears. Game over. Except that he's still technically there apparently, because we're blowing up when the bomb gets there again. There's other code that you can go in that physically removes the movie clip from the stage and stuff like that. But again, we just have a short amount of time that we're trying to play with code. So I don't want to try and expect you to learn all there is to know about Actionscript in 3 days. Any questions before you go back and start working on your games? Yes?
Do we need sound in it?
Yes.
Okay.
So requirements for your game: needs to have sound, needs to have dynamic text, needs to have your character move with the keyboard press. Other than that, it's kind of up to you guys what happens in it and what it looks like. But keep in mind, don't spend 2 hours making these beautiful graphics and not leave yourself time to play with the code. All right, the time is yours.